Guys, every time gets me. That throws me every time. So for today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on family signs. And I'm sorry if you hear me. I'm really sorry. Like I said, I just want to warn y'all now. So I promise it's not bad. I just that kid. I'm that person. I don't hide it. Anyways, so we're gonna work on family signs and then places. And then the last one I have is WH question words. And so that's like our who, what, when, where, why, those. So we're really going to get kind of going into it. And especially, I think the WH question words are always kind of a big thing because that's your first step into actually like asking questions and actually having a conversation with someone. So, all right. So I have my list. I don't know if I've said this in the classes before. I have my list on my phone, and that's why whenever I'm staring out into like the corner right here, it's my phone. So I have my list because if I don't, I will go so off topic and so far away, like I'll lose myself. So I have to like keep a monitor, be like, okay, there we go. So the first sign we're gonna do is family. So family, you're gonna have your two F's. They're gonna start like together, and then you do a circle. Family. This is this kind of open motion, I'm like doing the same motion, but I have just kind of an open, is when you would use for any type of group, class, team, family. So whenever it's a group of people together, like for example, class, you can do a C and do class. The more ASL way is open hand like this, and this just that kind of sign as is. But okay, let me explain this real quick. Sorry. So in ASL, a lot of signs don't have that letter to identify. So like class, this would be class. Family has its own, but like class, group, team. But to do more English and kind of be a little clearer, we have the G's for group, T's for team, C's for class. You do tend to see that in a school, and not everyone's always like this, but I always try to like explain that there is a slight difference. So if you do see someone doing like an open hand, that could still mean they're talking about a class or a group or a team. But I tend to use because I've learned a team is different than a class. A team is different than a group. A group is, they're very different in my mind. So whenever I see this, I'm like, if I say this, I feel like I'm not clear enough. So I will do that group or that team. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just a different way of signing. So I'm sorry. I know I'd say that later on, but I thought I needed to explain it now. So we have our family, that one. Okay. Then we have mom. So mom is going to be our thumb touching our chin. Yep, mom. And then dad is on our forehead. You'll start to notice as we're going through the rest of family signs and also like people signs is that any male is going to be up around our forehead. Any female is going to be right around our chin. That's just kind of how it's always been, but it's consistent. So if you're talking about someone and you're trying to remember what it is, well, I know it has to be up here because I'm talking about a male, or it has to be down here. So like I said, we have mom and then dad. Parents is going to be both, like mom, like dad, mom, dad, whichever. It's just you do both. Grandma is going to be grandma. So you bounce it out, grandma. And then granddad is granddad, bouncing out again. All right, then we have brother and sister. So I'm sorry, I know I turn myself a lot. It's just so you can see it from the side perspective. So you're gonna have two L's. Usually your non-dominant is like this. Dominant is this. You're gonna have your dominant hand at your chin, and then you're gonna come down on top of your other one. Sister. Sister. Yep. And then brother is going to be the same thing, but from your forehead. Brother. So it's really important when you're doing sister to make sure that your pointer finger does touch your chin, because if you do it like this, that's right. Like the sign for like correct, you're right. It's not sister. So that can get confusing. So that's why I was like, really make sure you are touching your chin, sister. All right. Then we have cousin. So for cousin, what you do is if you're talking about like a group of cousins, or it's It really doesn't matter if you have identified the gender, you just do cousin. The C. If you're talking about a boy or a girl cousin and you want to be specific, you do it low. So if it's a girl, you do it lower. If it's a boy, you go higher. But most of the time, you see just kind of this, because if you're not talking about this name and getting really specific, it's just cousin. Then we have uncle. So uncle is going to be our U. And it's like we did with our cousin. We're going to come up here at the top of our head and do a little circle. Uncle. And then for aunt, it's going to be A. And down at our chin, aunt. So uncle, aunt, dad, mom, grandma, grandpa, cousin. And then our sister, brother. I know, sister and brother was such a strange one to learn at first, because I thought at first I was like, am I supposed to do like an L on my forehead? And like, I was like, that doesn't seem right. And so then I was like, no, okay, it's this. It's very, and that's why I do a lot of like body shifts, is so you can see it from the different perspective, like different sides, so you know what I'm doing. So yes, I know it. This is one of those interesting ones. Okay, then we have son and daughter. So daughter, well, first, before we do that, actually, I do this every time. I need to teach y'all boy and girl first, because you use those to say son and daughter. So boy is going to be boy. And you're going to, it's like you're almost like grabbing the cat, like the bill of a hat. Boy. And then girl is going to be a thumb, and you're going to go down your side of your chin. So if you remember from last class, I think I showed y'all every day, and every day was this. You keep just going back and forth. Girl's going to go girl. You can't, I mean, you can do it twice, but it's not that constant motion for every day. So girl, every day. So what to do for son and daughter is you're going to go, for daughter, you go girl, baby. And I'm lifting high so you can see it. It's more relaxed, obviously. So you do not have to be sitting there going, girl, baby, girl. No, you go girl, baby, more comfortable. Girl, baby is daughter. And then boy, baby is son. So son. All right, then we have, oh, don't you turn off on me, phone. And then we have husband and wife. So this one's always kind of fun, like interesting for me, because I have a lot of coworkers who are deaf. And if I don't know a sign, I'm always asking them, trying to, understand. And this one, I always get two different responses from many different people. I get these two. So I'm going to show you both of them. And then kind of say, I'll just show you both of them. They're not wrong. Neither of them are wrong, not one or the other. It's just giving you guys that kind of perspective to see them. So the first one is you kind of have that open hand. You have your dominant on the back of your chin. Your non-dominant is open, husband. Or I mean wife, sorry, wife. And then husband would be at your forehead down, husband. The other one I see is you have the pointer finger. You start at pointer and then you open, wife, husband, husband. Now, the reason that's confusing with me, what I've had, like when I was learning is the sign for believe. Like I believe is believe, believe. And I was like, okay, isn't that husband? And so that's why some say, well, it's pointer and then it's open. And then you have believe here. And then I asked another person and they told me the opposite. And I was like, okay, so, and the reason they're different is because I think I mentioned this last class that there's regional signs and dialect basically in ASL. And it's just slightly different ways of signing it, like signing through like up north and the south, the west and the east. So sometimes they just have them different. And that, like I said, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different. So I want to show you both of them in case if you saw that, you knew, well, that could be this or it could be that. Okay, then let's see. Where else am I? Okay, so for granddaughter and grandson, because people do ask me about this one. I've asked a lot of my coworkers because this was one that I was curious of as well. This was like a year ago. And They said there's kind of two to three different ways you can do it. One is just a fingerspell granddaughter. And I know that's a very long word. So the other one is to do the grandma motion. Like if you're talking about daughter, grandma, baby. So granddaughter. Another one was just doing daughter. And then I think it was grand, you fingerspell. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. My hand does not like to fingerspell after the end of the day. It's just like, I'm just going to throw letters at you. You fingerspell grand, and then you do daughter. So you fingerspell the whole thing. The other one, I'm sorry, I'm like teaching this as a lesson. I'm so sorry. I'm starting to do like, I realize I'm starting to act like how I am in my classroom. I'm so sorry about that. That normally doesn't happen, but it's been a very crazy 2 weeks. So I think I'm starting to kind of get into that. But as I was saying, there is the one way where you can do the finger spelling. The other one is to say grandma, daughter, baby. And then the last one is that grand daughter. So, and then you would do the same thing for son, as you know, grandson or grandson or grandson. All right, let's see. What are my other family signs? I think that is all I have. So what we'll do right now is we're going to review them. And then I'm gonna leave it open for if you guys think of any other family signs that I didn't say or we didn't do. So let's go all the way back to family. Don't worry, I know I really threw them at you and we didn't do a lot of slow stopping. So don't worry if you can't remember, it's totally fine. So our first one we did was family. So family. I think what helps with this is that they're F's. So I'm always like, you think of, F is for family. So family. Then we had mom. Then dad. Yep. It's nice. Once you remember one, it's like, okay, well, the others work now too. Then we had parents, which is mom, dad, mom, whichever. Then we had sister. Then brother. Then we had cousin. Then we had uncle. Then we had aunt. Yep, aunt. Oh, excuse me, I had a hiccup. And then we had grandma. I realized I missed that one. Grandma. And then we had grandpa or grandfather. Then we had husband. I had to think for a minute. Sorry, I lost my list on there. So we have husband or husband, either way. And then wife. Then son, boy, baby. And then daughter, girl, baby. And then granddaughter. So I'm going to do the finger spelling grand and then do daughter. So grand daughter. If you can't finger spell, do not be like trying to copy my finger spell speed. I promise. I've been doing it a very long time now. So that's why it just kind of comes fast. Do not look at that and go, I should know that by now. No, you shouldn't. Take your time. And then grandson. So grandson. Okay. Are there any other family signs that you can think of that I did not say? I'm going to move my chat. Some people chat, some people voice. Are there any others you can think of? There's always more different types of families. So a lot of people ask me and I have to be like, yes. So yeah. Are there any you guys can think of? Niece and nephew. I cannot believe I forgot those. Okay. Really, really easy. So like we did for uncle and aunt, you do the same thing. So we have niece, that N, and nephew. Yeah. Niece, nephew. Yeah. But it was good. That was good. I'm glad you reminded me of that one. Let me see. So a lot of times I base it off of like my family, and I've already gotten all of mine, and I'm like, I don't have nieces and nephews yet, so that one will kind of go away. That's how I forget grandson and granddaughters, because I'm like, well, I'm not there, so it doesn't happen often. Let's see. Any other family signs? I'm trying to think. I think that might be it. If you think of any more, you're more than welcome to let Miss Katie and I know, or even type it in the chat, and we'll come back to it during this class. So, all righty. Are y'all feeling ready to start some places? Think you're feeling good? Okay. All right. So, and I don't know if I mentioned this the very first class. I tend to do kind of, I call it content heavy classes. And what that means is that I give you guys a lot of signs. And the reason I do that is because I feel like this is a good, you can save the video, like you can watch these videos over and over again. So it's like you have the resources for it. So I may not do as much review throughout the semester. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I told you I'm in teacher mode right now, but I may not do as much reviewing throughout the classes. And that's just because I want to give you guys as many signs as possible. And then you guys can do that independent practice out on your own time, if that makes sense. So I usually like to give that like whole little thing, like whole little speech on the first class, but I think I did it this time. So I wanted to say that. Okay. So the sign for place itself is kind of an awkward one. So bear with me. So you do the sign for P. So, you know, it's those K's and down. You're going to have them now sideways. You're going to start away from you, and you're going to have like your two middle fingers kind of touch. And what you're going to do is you're going to make a square. So here, oh, there we go. So I'm going to go out, back, and then together. So I'm going to bring it towards me. I'm making a big square. Yeah. So you start away from you, you move them apart, come down, and come back towards you. A square. Yeah. Place. It's one of those kinds of signs. So, and with time, that one becomes kind of more common and feels a little better, because I know it feels very weird, like almost like a robot. And after a while, you kind of get to that where you can do it a little smoother. All right. So the first one we're going to do, because I always forget this one and I have to remember, I have to keep it here. And so first one is library. I know it's really sad. I've forgotten this one multiple classes, and Katie will come on and go, Jillian, library. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. So the sign for library is going to be an L. And then you go in a circular motion, library. Mm-hmm. All right. Then we have school. So the sign for school is going to be non-dominant is palm up, dominant is on top, and you go school, school. Mm-hmm. And you want to make sure your fingers are kind of together and not like opposite like this, because this is paper. School, paper. People tend to, I remember in class, I had a lot of like co-workers, oh my goodness, peers who would just say this is school all the time. I was like, nope, you're talking about paper. So school is just kind of that tap, tap. Yep. Then we have home. So home is going to start at the corner of your mouth. Mm-hmm. And you're going to go home, back to your ear, home. Mm-hmm. And then because there technically is two different signs, there's home and then house. House is going to start kind of like that triangle. Think about when you're a kid and we always draw houses looking like this. Triangle, out and down. House, house. Mm-hmm. I always just visually remember I would draw that square and then that triangle on top, and that was my house. So house, house. Then we have, excuse me, we have store. So store is going to be, you almost have like your hand puppets. Now they're facing down. They are so sad, basically. And then you're going to shake them. Store. And you want to keep them up here like this. So this is one where you actually would have up here. Yeah, store. Mm-hmm. If you were talking about a grocery store, you would say food. So the sign for food is food. Mm-hmm. Food store. If you were going to talk about a clothing store, you do the sign for clothes, which is clothes. It's like your thumbs just kind of keep, yeah, clothing store. Mhm. And then we have, where'd you go? All right, I always put like we have the police station. So the way you do police station is you would do like police. Oh, wait, where is it? Sorry, I like had that moment where it just kind of went away. So the sign for police is you have like a small C and you go police. And normally, I don't know what I was about to say. I apologize. Normally you just do this for police and that police station, that's all in here, if that makes sense. So if you're talking about a person, you're like, oh yeah, well, he works at a police station. Well, he's a police. Then we have, where'd you go? We have, sorry, I was looking at my list and like the words just kind of went all kind of wonky. I'm trying to think, because those are not right anymore. Let's see, what are some other places? I feel like I know there's so many more and I'm not thinking right now. Office. Sorry. Okay, so office. Office is going to be, there's two ways. So the first one for office is you're going to do O's. And I start them kind of like this and I go out, office, office. And the reason for that is if you looked at it downward, it would look like I'm going, like I'm making a square. See how I'm doing that? Office. So it's that O. Then the other way is what I actually just showed you, and it's this. It's like, I'm going to show y'all aerially, like this is how it looks up top, office. So it's making that square box, office. This is again, one of those ones that like I was saying with group and team. So for an ASL, a lot of times this is just talking about a room, an office, a bedroom, any of those types is this. But there are some signs that'll do the O for office and then the R for room. So if you see this, this is still meaning room. Okay, let's see, where else am I forgetting? Why is this? What other places can you guys think of? I'm sorry, my list is very short for some reason. I don't think it's right. There we go. That is a perfect one. Okay. Hospital. So the sign for hospital is you're going to have your dominant hand in that H, and you're going to go across your shoulder and you're going to go across and down. Hospital. And it's like you're making that, like that T on it. Yep. Hospital. That was a good one. Okay. Kitchen. So kitchen has, there again, two different ways. So kitchen is going to be kitchen, where it's, well, it's your, yeah, it's your non-dominant. Your dominant is on top and it goes back and forth like you're cooking. The other one is the same thing, but now with a K, kitchen. Okay, thank you guys for giving me the list. You're making, like, my mind is now creatively thinking of other places because some reason it was like, no, this is it. So for neighborhood or town, this is also the same sign for city. And what you do is you start like this and you go and you bounce them back and forth. Town. If you're talking about like a neighborhood or like a big one, you kind of, you go this circular motion. Town, neighborhood, houses around. And then, you know, my finger, restaurant. When I saw kitchen, I was like, oh yeah. So restaurant is going to be, you're going to do an R and you're going to start on the opposite mouth. Yeah, side of your mouth. Yep. And you're going to go R, R. Restaurant. Restaurant. And what's kind of cool, I'll add this here since we're here, is the sign for a napkin is very similar. It's going to be like your N, but H, napkin, napkin. And then for us who are still in school, you do the C and it's cafeteria, cafeteria, cafeteria. That was why I was like, okay, how did I forget that? But then I was like, cafeteria. So then if you were talking about a gym, like going to the gym, you can do it two ways. You can fingerspell gym because, you know, gym is very short. Another way is basically saying like exercise. that you're working out. Usually I see more saying gym because it's so short. And one kind of thing that I'm sorry, I know I'm going really fast with my gym, but because one of the things that you'll see later on if you practice more and more finger spelling is that, excuse me, it becomes less of you spelling like Gym and becomes more of just a word, gym, gym. And it's like one of my favorite things to see, especially when I'm talking to my coworkers who are deaf and it's just natural for them. If their fingers spelling anything, like I remember when they would finger spell bus, they'd go bus, bus. Like, I mean, it's that circular motion. It's so smooth. And you're like, okay, I think I know what you said, but like, I'm more fascinated that you just went bus. Like you didn't even just go bus, you went bus. So I always think it's kind of cool, but I'm totally biased. I know I am. So let's see, any other places? Any other places you guys can think of? Yes. Okay, park. So park, what I tend to do for park for me is I tend to finger spell it because it is so short. You can, especially if there's like a playground area, because that's one I think of, is you do the sign for play and then the sign for area. So the sign for play is 2 Y's, play. Shake it back and forth. Yeah, play. And then the sign for area is, well, let me slow down. Is you make start with that A and you're going to go open in a circular motion, area. And so let me stand for this so you guys get a little better. The reason I say area is I'm talking about the area in front of me. Area. So play area. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I just felt like you couldn't visually see what I was talking about because I was sitting. And so I was trying to show that it's talking about the area around. That is kind of what you would do for any type of area. If you're talking about like, well, we have to go to that area, this area here. Okay. How to resituate my chair. Any other places you guys can think of? Because, apparently my mind is like, no. I'm trying to think. I know there's so many different more, obviously. I mean, they're just everywhere.
Church.
Bank and church. Okay. So for church, I'm doing this one first because there's a funny story with it. So the sign for church also has another sign very close to it. And I'm sure Miss Katie is so disappointed not be able to be on because this is like, I think one of her favorite things. So the sign for church is going to be a fist. And then your dominant is going to be in that C. And church is church. You tap it. Now, you don't want to do the circular motion because if you do the circular motion, you're talking about chocolate. And so they're so similar. You have church and you have chocolate. And there's just a lot of there are a lot of incidences like at school where you'd be learning that and we were trying to remember which one was which. And some people would say, oh yeah, I'm going to chocolate. And then some people say, I want church. And like the teacher just looked like, guys, chocolate, church. And I think that was like one of Miss Katie's like favorite like ones we learned that first week. She could not stop laughing because of how similar they were. So church, chocolate. All right, and then bank. So for bank, again, that's one that you fingerspell bank. I will say, especially if you start looking online at different signs, you can see some people signing to things for bank, or like, for example, the word flamingo technically doesn't have a sign, but if you go online, you'll see these signs. And I just always like to tell people it's not wrong. If you fingerspell, it's not wrong. If you sign it, it's not wrong really either. But it just, deaf culture can really be like, there's just not a natural sign for it. And then some are just kind of made signs to be given, if that makes sense. So if you see a sign online, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying that if you come in, you're like, well, why did Gillian say there's no sign for bank? But then I go online, I see one. It's because it can be just very different. It varies. So I just like to tell people that so they don't try to get mad and go, you told me there was no sign. I'm like, I know. But if you ask her, my deaf coworkers, they'll tell you too. Yeah, no. So bank, or you could do money. Money. It's like an open hand, like you're holding dollars and you tap it. Money place. So you can describe it too. So, all right. All right. Now I'm thinking we should just move on to the WH question words. If you think of any other places, just you obviously are more than welcome to let me know and I can add them to next week's class if we don't get to them today or any of those sort of, or you can let us know now. Either way. So we'll go ahead with the WH question words. I always like to start with who, because in my mind, I learned them very specifically who, what, when, where, why, and then our hows. So I have to go in this order or I lose myself completely. Just saying. So our who is going to be your thumb is going to be at your chin. And see, I'm kind of making an L right now. And then you go who. You like bend it. Who. And one thing that's important when you're signing WH question words is you want your eyebrows down. Who. I know you may be like, it feels like I'm looking mad. It's actually really important to have those eyebrows down because that's telling the person you're talking to that you're asking a question that needs an answer. So for if it's a question that needs like a full-on answer, like who, what, when, where, why, you do eyebrows down, who. And you also want to kind of do that like how I'm doing the who kind of motion, who. That too also helps. Surprisingly, I have deaf coworkers who have never were vocal or spoke ever, and they'll do the who because that's how it's learned. It's just kind of like connects with that who so well. So who. And then we have what. So what is going to be open hands. You're going to go what. And you shake them what. I tend to, and I always kind of hunch my shoulders like what. I don't know why I do that, but it's like what. Then we have our when. So when is going to be, you're going to have your two fingers, you're going to touch, and then you're going to have your pointer finger go in a circle. When. And again, that when, that eyebrows down again, when. Facial expressions are really important in ASL and they really make a big difference. So if you're not like me, who literally shows everything on her face, I would recommend practicing, just kind of practicing those facial expressions. So when. There we go. Perfect. Then we have our where. So where is going to be where. And it's that same thing, that in motion, where. I always think about a really dramatic, like just channel your inner dramatic self and just be like, where? Like, where? I do that all the time to my kids. Where? Like, they laugh. They think it's funny because I make the silliest of faces. I let those expressions show everything. I'm like, you're going to see me go, what? So, or where, not what. I know I said opposite, but this is where, I promise. Where? And then we have why. So why has 3 different ways to do it. I know you'll see that a lot, and really it's up to you. Whatever you think is the best, whatever you remember the best, you decide. So why is going to be the first one I'm gonna do is you start with this and you're going to pull back into a Y. Like I'm turning mine sideways so you see it, but you just kind of keep it Y. So I'm gonna come here, I'll show you. So see, I have them all together and then I pull back into just a pinky and a thumb. That Y. The other one is you're gonna have your middle finger and you go Y. And then the other one is Y. You just have that, you just bounce your middle finger back and forth. Y. I tend to do the Y, this one. So that's why this one's always kind of like, I learned it as this. And then when I was working at my school and learning how, like my internship, learning how to become a teacher, they kept doing why. And I finally was like, you know what, I like this now. It caught on. I caught myself doing this. And I was like, I guess that's how we're signing why now. So, all right, now what we're going to do is we're going to do how. And I'm going to do the two different how and like how much or how many, because that does have a different sign. So how is going to be 2 thumbs up together. And then your dominant one is going to go how. How. If you were going to say, how are you? You would do how you. How are you? How are you? And if you're not, and I guess for facial expression, because I was staring at myself doing that and I was doing my, how are you? It looks so angry. That does look angry with that one. And if you're trying to ask how someone's going, you're gonna be like, how are you? Like that nice, how are you? Still eyebrows down, smile at the same time. I know that is like a weird practice. I see you guys cackling over there. It's funny to do, I promise. When you're not used to it, it's like practice your facial expressions all the time. So I was very fortunate. I was already given this. I was able to do it easily. So then for how much or how many, you start with a fist and you go, how much? How much? How much? And that's not really talking money wise. Like that's more, I would say, like how much stuff do you have? How many? Like, so how many apples, how many oranges, how many? That kind of thing. If you're talking about like how much, that's when you do that money. And then you do how much? Money, how much? Okay. So now the next thing we're gonna do is no, I gotta explain this before we start this. I was so ready to go ahead. Is one other thing that happens with our WH question words is when you are using them in a sentence. As you know, in English, we tend to say, who is she? Like, who is that? Who are you? We have that who at the start of the sentence. When you are signing it, you use it at the end of a sentence. And so if I was going to say, pretend there's a person right here, and I'm going, who? I would say, who is she? Who is she? And the reason you end with that question word is that shows what kind of question you're asking. And it also really helps them to know you are asking a question. So like, who, that, like what, like what's that, is that you just kind of smack it, that, what's that? And so any type of sentence you're going to have that's a question usually has those words at the end. How are you is the only really different one. Is that how that one you do have the how at first. But for the others, like, like the homework, how do you do it? Like how, or I'm trying to think of examples right now. Like you made that how. So now what we're gonna do, okay, there we go. How to make sure. I was looking at my list again. Sorry, my phone closed on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you guys a few kind of simple signs of like questions you can ask. And then you can ask me, how would you sign? Very simple, right? Because we're not gonna go too big yet because there's only been our 3rd class, but just enough that if you had, like if you ran into a deaf person tomorrow, you could at least ask them and have something of a communication. So the first one is, what is your name? And so how you would do that is you would do your, which is, this is your name, what? So your name, what? And if someone asks you, like, your name, what? You actually you want to go with that, my name, and then fingerspell. A lot of times in, English, and when we're speaking, if someone says, well, what's your name? And I say, oh, Gillian. Like, I don't say, my name is Gillian. I just go, oh, Gillian. Or I'll say, Gillian, or it's Gillian. In ASL, the more proper way is to say, my name is Gillian. All right. And then for where is the bathroom? It's going to be, so the sign for bathroom, there are 2. And your son's going to get a kick out of this one. I know he is. I can just tell you now. So the 2 ways to sign it. The first one is really the sign for restroom. And it's that R, and you go restroom. restroom. I will say this one is not as common. I don't see as often. It is the more, I remember my teacher telling me that that's more the proper, fancy, nice way of it. But I don't see that one as often. The one I see most often is you make a tea and you shake it back and forth. Bathroom. And I remember my teacher used to get she did not like this one. She wanted restroom in our class. And the reason was because this T, she says the T stands for toilet. And so you're just yelling at me asking, where's the toilet? Where's the toilet? She's like, that is so not nice. Restroom, toilet, restroom. And I was like, I mean, I get it, but everyone does bathrooms. So every time I see this now, every now and then I'll see it. I immediately hear in my mind going toilet. And I don't know why it makes me laugh, but I'm like a kid myself. So it makes me giggle. So this is our more common bathroom sign though. So if you're saying, where's the restroom or where's the bathroom, you'd go bathroom, where? Bathroom, where? And I'm pulling back more. You don't have to. You can just go bathroom, where? Bathroom, where? All right. And then let's see. No, we don't need you right now. Let's see. Who, what, when, where? If you're asking what is the time, like what time is it? The sign for, you do the sign for time. Time what? Let's see. Some other, I'm trying to think of one with when. I use when so little in ASL. I've realized that. I don't know how I've done it, but I use it very little. So I'm trying to think of a sentence. I'm like, when do I have, when is, trying to think of one that would pertain with y'all. I can think school ones very easily, but that doesn't work for y'all if y'all aren't teachers. So I'm trying to be more broad. Let's see. Class start. Okay, you know what? You gave me a school one. So that's perfect because I was literally thinking that. Well, class start, when is class start? So what you would do for that is you would do class and then the sign for start. So start is going to have your non-dominant in this open 5 here. Yeah, got it. Start. So class start. You have your like pointer finger between your other pointer finger and middle finger, and you just kind of start it. Yeah. Start when. So class start when. Oh my gosh, I probably do. Sometimes I don't even realize when I'm signing. I tend to do that, especially you guys are really lucky because now that I'm in school, I'm so used to just signing constantly that now you guys get to see it more. My summer classes, I felt bad because I would come in, I'd be only like speaking, and then I realized I'm like, I think they would enjoy me signing. If it becomes a bother, I'm always like, tell me, and I will try to stop. But I'm also like, you are here to learn ASL, so like, maybe that kind of, I think it helps, and that. So I'm so glad. That is like I can't help it. It's so natural for me. Like I'll do it at my house, like at my home with my parents. Like I'll go visit them and we're having dinner and we'll be eating and I'll have like my mouth full and like my mom will ask me a question and I'll be sitting there eating and I'm like, I'm not going to talk with my mouth full because I've been taught not to do that. And so I'll answer her and sign and she won't respond back. And she's so used to it now. She'll just look at me and she's like, and then I'll finally answer her. The first time I did it, she stared at me and was like, what? And I was like, I'm so sorry. I just answered you in sign language and you don't know it. And then she would be like, and then she started being like, Jillian, I don't know sign language. Please voice for me. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. It was such a habit. So that's why I continue doing it now. But I'm so happy that it's actually really helpful for you guys. Like that I'm like, okay, we're good. We're not a full distraction in class. So, all righty. Let's see. Now let's come back to this. I got a little excited. Are there any other kinds of questions you guys can think of? I'm trying to think of some that would be common. Okay, how about do you need help? Or if I need help. That one, we'll do those two. So the sign for help itself is you're going to have your help is going to be your non-dominance up, dominance at thumb, help. And so help tends to, it's called, basically has directions, or it's directional is the word. And what that means is that depending on who's helping who, you show that through the sign. So for example, if I wanted you guys to help me, I would start away from me with the help and then come towards me, help me. So this means help me. If I was going to say like, oh, okay, I'm going to help you, I would start to me at me and I'd go, yeah, out, help you. And if I was talking about this person right here helping this person, I would go help you, help them. And so that's kind of, there's a couple of signs like that. And personally, I think I like them because it gets straight to the point. It really shows who you're talking about, and you don't have to add so many words in it, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm one of those people where I'm like, too many words. I'm like, nope, too confusing. ASL. So help. If you were going to ask someone if you needed help, you would do the sign for need and then a sign for help. So the sign for need, so you're going to have like your pirate and you're going to tap it. Need. And you go, need help, need help. And so I was just about to say, because I realized I didn't. For yes and no questions, you do the opposite with the eyebrows. So what you did was perfect. I saw it. Your eyebrows go up when you do a yes, no question. So if you're saying, you know, if you need help, you would go need help with the eyebrows up. And that again tells people, yeah, you're gonna have to work with your eyebrows. They're gonna be wiggling all over the place. And so like this tells people when you have those eyebrows up, that tells them you're asking a yes or no question. Those are down, they know, oh, that's a who, what, when, where, why, how. So that's kind of nice. I think that's really helpful too, especially when you're talking to people and trying to figure out when you're learning, especially, excuse me, is that trying to pick up if they're asking me a question. I would know I would have a hard time if they didn't have those eyebrows up or down. Show me, oh, okay, wait, you're asking me something. I saw those eyebrows up. So that is, yeah, I realized as I was saying need help, I was like, my eyebrows, they're going up and I didn't tell anybody about that. So those up. All right, let's see. Any other questions? That would be good. I'm trying to think of simple, because obviously there's so many different kinds, but I don't want to go too far because we haven't learned all the signs, and we will learn obviously more signs later that we can build sentences. Well, I will give you the sign for question. So the sign for question is question. You're making a question mark with your finger. So you make that curl and then doop, question. That can also be used for ask. Ask her, ask them, ask me. Another way to do ask is you put your hands together and you go ask. I tend to do this one more, I will say. So you'll probably notice, you know, if I say, like I'm saying, okay, well, here's a question or here's this, I'll do this a lot. Question, ask. Answer, the sign for answer is answer. 2 fingers, answer. And it's kind of like the pointer fingers close to your mouth. It's not touching, but it's close. And it's showing like you're responding, you're coming from it, answer. You can do respond, but I tend to just kind of go both as is. So what city does your grandparents live in? So that's a good one. That's a really good one since we learned all those words. Oh, I love it. Okay. So what you would do is actually, there are 2 ways you can do it. I'll show both because I am twisting your sentence just a little, and then I'll go actually like how it's said. So the one thing you want to start with is you say your grandparents, and you go the sign for live. So live is 2 L's. You start at the side of your stomach. You can't see because I'm sitting, and you come up, live. So like here, I'll back up. So I'm right here, live. So I come up from my stomach up to my shoulders, live. So I would say your grandparents live where? The other one you can do, like I said, I twisted it, trying not to hit myself with my chair. I have those types of legs that really hurt when they bang my ankle. So I was like waddling with it, moving it. But so The other one for like you were saying, what city does your grandparents live in? You would again start with your grandparents live city. And then you would go like I would do it like if I was going to say it, I would go city name what? I would say, what's their city name? City name what? So it's not, I know it's still not exactly like that. Where do you know what cities your grandparents live in, but you kind of, you change the sentence, the question that still is getting to that point, but asking it a different way, if that makes sense. So I tend to always go for the most direct route. So I'll be like, your grandparents live where? Where? Because usually they'll most times they'll finger spell it. Or if you have kids like I do, they'll go far or near. They're not going to tell you where. They're just like, they're close. Far is you have two fists. I had hair on one, sorry. And then you go far. Far. And then near is near. So yeah, I got a fun little group of kids. They're younger, they're third grade this year. Usually I teach sixth grade. And all the stories I had last year were just because I had such a funny group of kids. So you'll probably hear some stories, especially now that we've started school. I was just, especially ones where it's involving sign, because I will tell you now, deaf kids are so creative with their signs. They like to, like how we do play on, like how as kids, we do play on words. They do the same thing, but in sign. One of my favorite ones is from my students last year, is when they would talk about like their grandparents. They would get really dramatic, or their great-great-grandparents. And what they would do is they go, my grandma, and they'd go, grandma, and they just pretend like it just kept going. And they would do that and just kind of pretending like that she's that old. She just grandma. Or they'll do one of my favorite ones, and they still do it. I have my kids now doing it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. It's being old. So the sign for age is age. You like kind of do a fist and come down your chin. And what a lot of my kids will do, because to do old, you go old, like you keep going down, and they will go old, and they'll just keep going, but they're like going all the way down until they're hunched over like an old person. So they literally will go old. And I don't know, I think it was the funniest thing I'd seen. I mean, I still laugh because like I would like stand up and I'd be like making a face because like my knees were hurting, and they'd look at me and go, you old. And I was like, I just laughed. I thought it was too funny. So I like to tell stories like that in class. I think it just kind of, it shows how much you can do with ASL. It's such a flexible sort of language, I kind of say, because if you can't do it one way, you can do it another way. And it still can be right. Especially like with that finger spelling. I tend to have to finger spell certain words that I don't know myself. And no one looks at me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she doesn't know that. No, like they just are like, okay. And sometimes they'll sign it to me, or sometimes, we just continue on the conversation. So, okay. We do have 4 minutes left. Sorry, I don't know why I did things. 4 minutes left. Are there any questions you guys have about ASL or deaf culture? Any kinds?
So I noticed that. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I've noticed that when you say sign, you do this a lot, but I learned sign as like that. And then I saw you one time you did that when you said sign. So I was just wondering what
they're both. So this is sign, and this is also sign. Okay. I tend to think of sign is, I almost want to say, I hate to say it, but it's more like in my mind, it's the basic sign. And then if you're saying sign this one word, like sign this. Sign to me is almost like if you're saying, okay, well, like I'm signing, like I'm talking right now.
Like talking versus signing.
Yeah, I tend to do that more. That's also, I've seen this one more. I learned this too. I learned sign. And I remember when my teacher came in, it was like a new teacher, and she told me sign. And I was so stubborn. I was like, it's sign. I learned sign. Like, I was so ready to argue with her. And she's like, okay, it's both. And then she explained this. And then I went to my school and I saw this all over the place. And I was like, ooh, okay, well, I am so sorry, ma'am. And so that's where I learned, okay, you do have to be kind of flexible and learn that there's different ways. But sign and sign, both are right. And either one really works. I mean, there really isn't one that's over the other, if that makes sense. But yeah. Are there any other questions? And like I said, I think, and I tend to repeat myself because since I do this class, kind of it repeats. So I always kind of worry if I've already said it, but I feel like if I didn't say it and then I thought I did, I feel even worse that you didn't know. So I am like, I'm going to tell you twice, maybe 3 times, but that way you at least know it. Is you guys are more than welcome to ask me any kinds of questions you have about deaf culture, ASL, deaf people in general. And the reason for that is because I want you guys to feel like this is a safe place to ask. And, I'm one of those people that gets very concerned of, I don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings or offend anyone. And so I tend to be kind of scared to ask because I don't want to upset them. So that's why I'm here, is that you can ask me and you go, okay, will that be rude? Would that be mean? Or would that upset someone? And I can tell you, no, or yes, it will. That is kind of what I want to give you guys. So if you are truly curious about literally anything in deaf culture, ASL, deafness itself, I am more than happy to either answer it, or if I don't know it, because I don't know everything, I can ask. I have a lot of good deaf coworkers, and they know I'm always like asking them questions about this and that, and so they're kind of like, they're ready. So that's just kind of like, what I like to tell everybody. And if you think of any other ASL questions, why did I say culture, but then I said questions. If you think of any other deaf culture or ASL questions, you can always save them for next week, or you can email and she'll let me know. I love it so much. I'm like, yeah, you go for it. You take it. You get what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to make sure it's right. Sometimes it's not always going to be right because it's really, really hard to what's called coming, and that is signing and talking at the same time. It's a challenge, and one language is not as great as the other. One of them has to be lower. And typically for like this class, because I'm voicing to y'all more because that's y'all's native language, that one is more accurate rather than always like ASL. So like the signs may be right, but they're not in the right structure, or they might not even be the right signs because I am changing. So if that happens, I will try to fix myself, or I'll try to explain why I did that. But it's a big challenge. And you should see me. Oh, it's interesting seeing me at school. I have like a few coworkers who are hearing, and like I'll speak to them, or I'm trying to think of how I would say this to my students, and I'll start to, when I say I'll do voice or be vocal, and I don't talk in proper English. I'm talking in ASL. And it's so interesting. I was telling my mom about it. She was like, you talk like that? Because I was saying, instead of saying like done, like saying, like, okay, well, you better worked on your project. I'll be like, work finished on project done. Like I make it's so confusing. Like if you heard it, you'd be like, what did you just say? But it's the way I say it's how you would say it is sign it in ASL. So I know I went off again. I do it so easily. And I apologize, but I'm also like, I'm not sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed the stories. I think they're funny or they're interesting. And I just really cherish like the deaf. I love learning about deaf culture. And I love when other people are actually interested and want to know. And that's why I'm like, I'm so happy to tell y'all anything. So okay, it is now 6:32. So I didn't even give you guys an opportunity to ask questions, but what we'll do is next week, if you have any questions, save them, and then next Tuesday we can talk about them. the theme, the thing we're gonna learn next week is types of food. Food, I went to the side, sorry. I looked at the first word and it was fruit. That's why I went food. So, but we're gonna do food next week, and usually that one takes a lot. But you guys have been kind of a fast group. We've been doing a lot more and more. So we might do some activity signs like verbs and activities that you do as well. And we'll kind of start that next week. So I hope you guys have an awesome rest of y'all's week. And I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye.